New Orleans, a city of food, fun, and culture. A city of poverty, corruption, and crime. It's been called the Big Easy and the Crescent City. It has national sports teams, world-renowned restaurants, and a Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper, the Times Picayune. The centerpiece of journalism for the New Orleans community for the last 175 years.
Mitch Landrieu, the mayor of New Orleans, says the loss of a daily paper is a terrible blow to a city that has had more than its fair share of misfortune.
People in the city were worried that it was going to send a message to the rest of the country that we want a big league city because we're not going to have a daily paper.
The Times Picayune New York-based parent company, Advanced Publications, decided to make a big leap in the Big Easy, a decision that many in this town say is a big leap backwards.
Breathtaking. I was astonished. I thought that would never happen. It's sad.
Whatever you become accustomed to, so if you're used to having it delivered to you and reading it, and then it just kind of disrupts your routine.
After a story leak from the New York Times, employees and journalists from the Times Picayune learned their fate in the summer of 2012. The paper was going digital and only printing 3 days a week.
The radio headline was going paperless. And then as a little more info came out, it said to 3 days a week. But it didn't, at that point, it wasn't, the depth of the changes hadn't barely begun to reveal themselves.
And now they have it for most of the week on the internet, which is a puzzle. I still don't know how to go through it.
It wasn't about money and finances, it was about ego, I think.
Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. The only days that New Orleans can feel the newspaper in its hands. Army Corps Ken Holder fears the moving to digital and revamp of NOLA.com moves the paper from hard-hitting to hardly any news at all.
The Times Picayune going to a different strategy for how they do their business has hurt not only us, has hurt not only people who need to communicate, but has hurt the public. I think when you have journalists who are beat reporters, understand an issue, understand who all the players are, they're then able to bring a comprehensive story together for the average person living in the city.
You know, we look forward to that, not to have it now. We don't have computers where I'm at. We don't have it inside the units. We're not able to afford it and whatnot. So we basically lost. We are people that are way behind time, you know, without having that little 25 or 50 cent paper that was available every day to the news. We're not getting it.
And I think that there was an important thing in New Orleans where everyone was reading the same paper. You know, everyone was getting their news, at least some of their news, from the same place. So, you know, the Times Picayune was always around. You know, like someone would have it, you'd read it, put it down, someone else would read it, and so we would have a sort of the whole community, or a big part of the community, was engaged in the same stories and issues.
Different organizations in the community formed the Times Picayune Citizens Group. Members of the group were establishments included Greater New Orleans Incorporated, who worked towards keeping the paper's daily schedule.
Having a 7-day print paper was key to the brand, important to the brand of New Orleans as a city and as a region surrounding New Orleans, and that the extent to which we wanted to promote tourism and businesses coming to locate here, companies having conferences here and associations here. Having a 7-day-a-week paper mattered, and we were worried that that would all be compromised as a result.
The paper was not only converted to digital medium, but also over 200 of its employees were laid off. Some of them would be allowed to keep their job under certain circumstances, but not all employees agreed with the Advanced Publications decision.
I think it would have been hard to do it ethically. I had been writing opinion pieces for nearly 10 years about politicians, and they asked me to go be a kind of neutral reporter. And I have a paper trail, you know, I have told people what I think about them, sometimes in kind of personal terms. And I think it would have been really hard for me to kind of ask them to put that aside. And I don't know that I would have put it aside. I think it's just not a practical construct.
These changes ignited a reaction from the people of New Orleans.
I feel like the way this whole thing with NOLA came down, they were trying to prep it and package it and spin it, and then it got out early, and they tried to do damage control instead of just being upfront and honest.
A lot of people like the daily news, like to get it. I know my grandma loves to read the newspaper every day, so when they cut back, it was kind of weird, I guess.
We thought the Times Picayune going to this format was going to be kind of the end of our news cycle and news as we know it, and it is, but then all of these other outlets have kind of stepped up and seen an opportunity in that. So interestingly, we've got more outlets and more options.
Christine Albert works in the marketing department for Two Row Infirmary. She says her industry is suffering from the cutbacks as well.
For us, especially the Times Picayune, reaching an older audience was really a good investment and a great way for us to do that because people were really loyal. They read the Times Picayune religiously. You knew if you put your ad in there, they were going to see it, they were going to respond and call to register for your seminar. And so this kind of change of format has made us re-examine that, especially because we're an adult population and a lot of the people we're focusing on are 55 plus.
As more resources were being slashed from the Times Picayune and shifted to NOLA.com, other media outlets are stepping up their game in order to meet the needs of New Orleans.
One of the big reasons that we're able to succeed and we're seeing such a response to our work is that we are web native. We have been online from the beginning, and so live tweeting and live blogging meetings comes naturally to us, and we are trying to think about our work in different ways.
Myers says that web news is becoming more popular as a result of the ability for everyone to be a citizen journalist.
Nationally, I think that this is a really interesting testing ground because this is a mid-sized city, a very diverse city, one in which the penetration of the newspaper has always been really high. The newspaper has been a really important part of the community. So I think the open question is what happens when that stops being a daily routine.